Well, here we are on a Sunday morning, everyone. Joe Chaffee and Joe Rayo on the Sunday morning coffee or tea with Chaffee and Rayo show. And we took a couple of days off. Uh, uh, kind of glad we did. There wasn't a whole lot going on. And
Well,
frankly, needed to zone out just a little bit.
well, you had a big day yesterday. Your daughter graduated and received her doctorate in optometry, so that was a nice thing. Even though, thanks to social distancing and the Corona situation, she was not able to actually walk down the aisle and get a diploma. But
Yeah, it was kind
nonetheless,
of weird. We did this Zoom video thing. So, the school had their part in there, and we had a whole bunch of people on. And the one upside, I have to tell you, honestly, the one upside is that you could go ahead and just basically, after the guy gave the school chancellor, whoever he was, gave his address, and you could just basically take your mouse and then just slide the bar over to where you need it to be, so
right.
that you don't have to sit through everybody's names being called and all the other stuff. So it was good. Considering the circumstances, it was the best that it could be. And yeah, now she's got a residency that she's going to be doing at Ohio State. So she's got still some. Although this, at least she's going to get paid for this. Excuse me. And yeah, it's the first, I think, the first doctor in our family, by the way.
Dr. Chiaffi. Does
My
that sound?
daughter, the doctor.
Well, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And as I said on your Facebook page yesterday, this with the seeing your child obtain a diploma, and especially in your case a very high level diploma, that really is what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what we've spent the last 40 some odd years toiling in the vineyards and the fields to get to, right?
Right. Now we can go ahead and just, go out into the abyss. We've
Yes,
done our duty. We could
yes.
just we could just be like salmon. You swim upstream, spawn, and then you're never heard from again.
Indeed.
Uh,
Well, it's funny now. Up here where I am, Putnam Valley, 50 miles as the crow flies, and let me tell you, it's been a very old crow.
mm,
As the crow flies north of New York or Midtown Manhattan, we have a beautiful Sunday. I mean, it's blue sky, bright sun, a few lacy and high, thin, wispy clouds. And when I came on with you before we started this, I said, "What the heck?" I mean, like I'm anticipating like a cloudy, dreary day, and
right.
meanwhile, that's what you have down on the island of Long for the
Yeah.
most.
Well, you know what? It's. I went out walking this morning, and the sun actually came out, and I had open blue sky. From where I'm about 55 miles out east of New York City, so from northeast of me. I mean, I could see where the clearing line was, and this is so typical of when you get these onshore flow setups and high pressure to the north, where dry air starts to at least tries to come down. Joe, it's come down in a really weird way, because if you look at this, I got the satellite loop, okay, and wait a minute, that's an old shot. I don't know why it didn't refresh.
Probably like the crow,
Yeah, hang on one
an old
second.
shot and an old crow.
Let
Um,
me just refresh this.
yeah, but you know what, Joe? On Friday, you and I got together, even though we didn't go on the air Friday night, and I said, "Boy, what a miserable looking day on Sunday," because all the parameters were signaling that we were going to be stuck. The mid and high levels were going to be nice and dry, but the low levels looked like they were going to be saturated. The FOOS, the North American model, the NAM, indicated that on Sunday, today, that the relative humidity of the first layer, the lowest layer of the atmosphere, would be in excess of 90%. And from my experience, when I see something like that,
Right.
I know that it's not going to be a nice looking day. It's going to be like a day with lots of clouds, low clouds, and that again, right above us, a few thousand feet above that, it's nice and dry and pleasant. But that doesn't do us any good because we're
Right.
stuck in all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, yesterday, the NAM changed its mind and said, "Oh, did I say that we were going to be stuck with all that low level cloudiness? No, not really.
Not
We're
really.
going to have some indications of dry weather." and some sunshine for Sunday. And I said, what the hell is this all about?
Well,
And
there's
then,
a wall, the wall of clouds, and I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the satellite. Just refreshed it. It's on the screen. So, except for right along the South Connecticut coast and probably just south of you,
right,
that's where the wall of clouds is. But there's a big hole in the northwestern counties of New Jersey and northeastern Pennsylvania. So from there north and east, it's dry and it's sunny through central and northern Connecticut, virtually all of New England, except the extreme south. And then, of course, you've got all this cloud cover that covers central and south Jersey, southeast PA, down into Maryland, Virginia, and even into northeastern North Carolina. There's a weak low offshore. You've got this high up to the northeast, and this just at least it's not. There's no rain in any of this. This is really
right,
just a matter of getting the cloud cover out of the way.
right.
And the one thing that was odd on yesterday, and I think it might still be showing up here on the sound on the radar. Let me just bring this up before I refresh it. No, this was from Friday, so I guess I must have accidentally opened this over the Friday this program, and it's got the old loops up. So let me just freshen this. And
And and the other funny thing was last night I looked at the National Weather Service forecasts, and for New York they had a cloudy morning and partly sunny in the afternoon. And meanwhile, north in Albany, for virtually all of their zones, they had only one word: sunny.
sunny.
Said,
Well, look at
"This is
look at look at what's on the satellite.
and
It
absolutely true,
fits.
absolutely true.
Well, uh, the thing with yesterday was there were clusters of heavy rain, uh, areas that got an inch to an inch and a half of rain. The funny thing is that it wound up setting up. It had a lot of that rain over Long Island and Connecticut, and very little of it in central and South Jersey. So naturally, where was it? In central and South Jersey. I mean,
Yeah.
eventually it did set up in western Long Island. I was on the edge of it. I think I rained maybe for about 15 minutes here, but I watched the radar all yesterday afternoon. I mean, it was just solid with thunderstorms in the mix going back to Nassau County and from western Suffolk County all the way through Nassau, New York City, and then just the arcing into parts of northern and central New Jersey. It was just like this little arc of precip. And now, of course, all of that is gone. So, at least from the standpoint of dealing with the nonsense of yesterday, that's done. And I think we're going to see some improvement, uh, some slow improvement here as this onshore flow weakens during this afternoon and tonight. And we should have a bit of a better day, I think, coming up for tomorrow.
I think it's basically going to be the
I mean,
situation.
for you, it'll be a repeat performance because you've got a nice day today.
Yeah, well, we have a nice day today, and for places that are stuck in the clouds, yeah, I think we'll see some sun breaking through slowly but surely during the afternoon. And then as the air cools tonight, we'll probably see the low level moisture reestablish itself over much of the area. And then tomorrow, again, basically, as you just noted, kind of a repeat performance of some clouds giving way to sun. And for those places that already had the sun this morning, basically a flat out sunny day. And here, Joe, interesting, yesterday, Putnam Valley, high temperature 71 at 10:50 a.m. And then by
Yeah.
4:30, it was down to 63, and we had picked up just shy of 6/10 of an inch of rain. Some of the rain really came down rather heavily. So once the rain and the wind shifting into the northeast came in, everything went downhill very
Oh,
quickly.
same here. I mean, we dropped into the upper 40s last night. When I went walking this morning, it was cold. By the way, another spot today that's not having some very nice weather is Central and South Florida. Looks like a little bit of a tropical disturbance that is coming out of the Northwest Caribbean and shooting northeastward is producing clouds and quite a bit of rain there. We have some showers and storms going on in parts of the northern plains. Also, we're going to see some severe weather today in the central and southern plains. If you look at the satellite loop, it's kind of a bit what I would regard as being a bit on the messy side east of the Rockies. There's like patchy cloudiness in a lot of spots. Some areas are showing clear skies and sunshine. Parts of the central Gulf Coast, the Carolinas, into Georgia, the Northeast, except for southern New England on southward down into North Carolina. That's the exception. And also the Southwest and the Southern California, where we're seeing some hot weather today. And in fact, the Weather Service has various excessive heat watches up for parts of southern Arizona and also for central and northern California, especially like places like San Francisco having in an excessive heat watch. You don't see that too often for downtown San Francisco, anyway.
Well, usually if it gets hot in San Francisco, it's usually as a result of Santa Ana winds or a seasonal thing in October. October is when they tend to heat up in Northern California. So yeah, it's kind of interesting and unusual to see this all happen so early in the season. And CPC, the Climate Prediction Center, has a
Right, not
lot
the
of
Center
smart.
for Disease Control.
No,
Right.
no.
They aren't doing long. They aren't doing long range forecasting just yet. But don't go on.
Right. Well, the Climate Prediction Center is suggesting that in the next 6 to 10 days, a broad swath of the western U.S. will be under excessive heat alerts, not just where they are placed now, but even up into places like Nevada and Utah, and perhaps reaching as far north as Oregon and Idaho. So if you want heat, go west, young man or young lady. But meanwhile, here in the east, well, we're going to actually warm up ourselves by mid and especially late week this
Oh,
week.
we're going to be in the 80s starting on Tuesday.
Yeah, and also a bit of humidity, I think, mixed
The
into the mix.
humidity.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
And
can
you mentioned
understand.
and you mentioned Florida, and all eyes will be on Florida on Wednesday because at 4:33 Wednesday afternoon, weather conditions permitting, the first launch of manned space capsule, not the space shuttle, but actually a capsule, kind of like Back to the Future, from Cape Canaveral up to the International Space Station. So we'll have two astronauts actually rising up into the heavens from American soil. We're all, fingers crossed with that. So we'll see how all that goes. But again, weather conditions permitting, 4:33 in the afternoon in Florida, beginning in May on through the rest of the summer, usually means there's going to be some kind of a threat of showery and thundery weather. So
Right.
we'll see how that all pans out for SpaceX. For
I brought up I brought up some temperature maps for California for the Southwest. I'm just looking at. I mean, I don't know. I thought maybe I'd see higher numbers here for Monday. Some places well inland getting in above 100, but that's not exactly breaking news as far as I'm concerned. And then running up to the north now, where they have the excessive heat watches up. So Santa Rosa, which is not that far inland, by the way, 98. Um, uh, San Francisco is, I think that's the 82. Where there's a difference between downtown and then when you go inland near Oakland. But 82 in downtown San Francisco, that's a little that's on the warm side. Stockton, well inland, 100. Modesto, 99. Um, I'm trying Fresno 98. I'm just trying to find out Encino. Should we see what the high is going to be in Encino?
Encino, yes. You know who lives in Encino? Sonny Fox, the former host of Wonderama,
Really?
and still alive and kicking. In fact, in a few weeks, he's going to turn 95 years old.
Oh,
God
God
love him.
bless.
Yeah.
And the heat actually gets, by the way, in California, the heat actually gets even hotter, worse going into Tuesday. Now we're starting to see highs of, San Francisco about 84 or 5s, which means just inland it'll be over 90, and not too far inland from there it'll be over 100. Stockton 104, Modesto 104, Fresno 104, Bakersfield 104, down near LA, areas inland getting up over 100. Now you're starting to see some prints like between 105 and 110 well inland. Let me jump to Wednesday. Yeah, now it gets even worse. Numbers
Right.
going into Lake Havasu City in Arizona at a buck 12.
Right.
So we're looking at some pretty interesting uh, heat here, if you want to call it interesting. But yeah, does seem to be excessive, and it goes at least well with this with the way the pattern is set up. Let's see if even going into Thursday, um, so it finally starts to ease a little bit on Friday. The whole week in the West looks problematic. And meanwhile, for us, it's going to be nice because at least we're going to see temperatures up into the 80s beginning on Tuesday and carrying us right through Friday, the 80s, going up into northern New England, which, by the way, happened late last week, where it was actually 10 or 15 degrees warmer up in northern New England versus, I think, on Friday, where temperatures in parts of Maine reached up into the middle and upper 80s, while down here, many areas didn't get much above the low 70s because clouds rolled in, and then we had to deal with, whatever showers that were running around Friday night into early Saturday. But yeah, at least we're going to have we're going to have a warmish finish to the month of May, which to me is a positive.
Right, right. And as just mentioned with the Climate Prediction Center, it's only going to get hotter before it starts getting cooler again.
Yeah. One thing about this week too coming up, Joe, no rain in the forecast. At least I think it through Friday. Maybe Friday night or on Saturday with the next cold front next Saturday. But other than that, the whole week looks pretty quiet here.
It does, it does, and that's what people were waiting for, wasn't it? Warm and dry, and
Hmm.
that's exactly what we're going to be seeing. Although, as I said, I think by Thursday and Friday, I think we're going to start seeing dew point temperatures combining with temps in the 80s, dew points reaching into the 60s, and that's going to make it feel a little muggier out there.
Well, I'll deal with it.
A
That
little
that that I
bit,
shall deal with.
yes,
All right. Severe weather risks today, running through the southern and central plains from Texas all the way up into Kansas and then northeast into Iowa. We actually have at 11:16 Eastern time a working severe thunderstorm watch up in southern Iowa. You don't usually see them at this time of the day, but it's there, so we acknowledge it. And as far as the severe weather goes over the next couple of days, not seeing anything too problematic here. A few areas of marginal risk: South Florida, south and south parts of Southwest Texas and into Central Texas. Parts of Arkansas, Missouri, and easternmost Oklahoma and Kansas, and then a small part of central and northern Wisconsin into southwest Minnesota on Tuesday. I'm sorry, on Monday. And on Tuesday, we have a small area of marginal risk in South Texas, and that's it. And as far as days 4 through 8, Joe, there is the probability is too low
right,
over from day 4 to day 8. So it doesn't look like potential is too low, I should say.
yes,
And So there really isn't doesn't look like we have any big outbreaks to deal with, which is a good thing. And rain wise, from the folks at WPC, starting from this morning at 8 a.m. to next Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Big rains in South and Central Florida on the order of 3 to 6 inches. Big rains in much of Central, East, and South Texas on the order of several to 4 or 5 inches, and that runs all the way up into Kansas and parts of Nebraska and Iowa. Meanwhile, for us, they're showing some heavy precip on the order of an inch to an inch and a half, but that's got to be for whatever cold front comes Friday night and Saturday, because we're not
right,
going to see any precip pretty much all week long, and then a little bit of precip up in the northwest, but the southwestern part of the U.S. remains dry. But yeah, what you're seeing in the northeast here is back end loaded. Okay, what you're seeing down in Florida is front end loaded, and what you're seeing in Texas probably encompasses it's mostly front and middle end loaded. So don't worry too much about that rainfall that you see in the Northeast, because that's all going to come at the end of the week anyway.
right. Just for all of you out there who had plans for next week, next weekend, and
Yeah.
it probably they said, "Wow, what's going to come our way for Saturday?" Right. Yeah, it looks like we do have some kind of a cold front that looks like it'll be moving in probably either very late on Friday night or early on Saturday. And Joe, when you consider how warm it's going to be during the especially latter part of this week, and when you consider how the atmosphere behind that cold front for Friday night, Saturday morning is on the dry side,
Right.
relatively speaking, we could be looking at not only just heavy downpours, but maybe even a bit of severe weather for late Friday or on into Friday night and early Saturday. So that's something to keep in the back of our minds as we move toward the end of this week.
Okay. Well, the tropics are quiet. And by the way, just want to point out that we are, of course, into the season now where we're going to be looking for tropical things. And once there must be a built-in error in the GFS where it keeps showing tropical systems in the time frame from say day 11 through day 16, and it's been doing that the last virtually every run for days now. The only thing is it never seems to get inside the day 10 time frame. We go through this from time to time. I just want to put that up front and center. So you expect the models to do the usual strange things that they do in the long range when it comes to spinning up tropical systems, and just recognize that 99 times out of 100 they're really they're not going to happen. uh,
Right.
the
So you're making an allusion, for example, to that thing by about day 11 or 12 down near the Yucatan Peninsula of
Yeah,
Mexico.
it's been doing that for a week now. It never comes inside the 10 day, the day 10. It never comes inside of day 10. So
Right.
it seems to be an error that always shows up in those in that day 11 to 16 time frame. Now,
Right.
going forward with regards to the upper air, we do have a ridge building in the east. We have a ridge that's building in the west. There's a big cutoff low that's out off the coast of well off the coast of California and the Baja Peninsula. It's almost, but not quite, halfway between there and Hawaii, and you've got this ridge that's built up from Nevada northward. And of course, we've got this nice upper high for a change sitting here in the east. So the flow from Canada is basically deflected well to the north. So that allows for some nice warmer weather for those of you who like warm weather, and I kind of do, especially this time of year. Uh, that is going to hold in place pretty much all of this week. We're going to have to wait until late this week when you start to get a bit of the trough in the north. The flow starts to strengthen a little bit, and you get the westerlies to come down into northern Virginia by the time we get to Saturday. So that means the next cold front at the end of the week will make it pretty far to the south. Certainly south of our area, and head down into the mid-Atlantic states. I don't know how far, if it makes it all the way down into the Carolinas, but eventually it might, because the trough is forecast to strengthen a bit here in the east, and then it just kind of hangs around going into the first week of June. It actually strengthens over time. The other thing to watch for with regards to the tropics, one of the things I try to look for is whether we're in a situation where you get lower than normal pressures this time of year in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. That would be something where you might have um, uh, where something may try and develop. Now you do have that condition that starts from around the 1st of June, okay, and continues through the first 10 days of June. So you do have lower than normal pressures that are being shown there by the model. Now, whether that winds up amounting to anything or not remains to be seen, but I would still be very skeptical of whatever the runs themselves do with regards to tropical systems.
So the pressures um, seasonally at this time of the year can be expected in the Gulf of Mexico to lower with the passage of time, which may lead to some kind of a, if not a tropical type system, at least some kind of a wave of low pressure that periodically. And again, of course, down
Right. Well, you're
there,
seeing it. You're seeing it today with what's over South Florida. I mean, you've got this upper air disturbance. Let me just bring it
right?
up on the radar for everybody to take a look at. There is rain that is down in South Florida. You see it there. Let me freshen that up. There we go. And it's moving northward. Now, this is all part of so there's a week. I would even hesitate to call it a tropical system. I mean, it is technically it is, but it's a weak wave of some kind that's getting ejected northward. So yeah, and sometimes when you have lower than normal pressures down there under certain conditions, you could wind up seeing something tropical come out of it. You see it here on the GFS, this little wave that moves out, and pressures still actually remain low throughout much of the Gulf of Mexico much of this week. There just doesn't seem to be a catalyst to set anything off, at least through this week. Now, here's your front, by the way, Joe. You look here in the eastern part of the United States, our onshore flow, this low, this 10-15-ish low that's east of Delaware, south of Nantucket, that gradient, that onshore flow starts to relax because that low weakens and the high moves out. So you're making a transition starting from tonight into tomorrow into, where the winds become more southerly and eventually go southwesterly. And there's nothing to stop it from warming up during this week. And here comes your cold front, as you pointed out, for Friday night into Saturday, which is sitting, pretty much right on top of us next Saturday. And yeah, maybe if it times out right, maybe there could be a severe weather risk here. We'll have to just wait and see.
Right. Well, of course, naturally, our friends over at the Storm Prediction Center are not going to stick their necks all the way out, let's say to day 6 or 7, to make an indication of whether or not there's going to be. Maybe that'll happen in the next several years, but it certainly is not going to be happening now with the predictability still too low, even though, as we just saw, you could.
That's why when they do put it, in those long sets, that day 4 to 8 time frame, you have to pay attention.
Right. Right. Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. I don't remember them ever going beyond day 5. Uh, have you?
I've seen a day 7. I've seen them on a
Day
day
7.
7. Yeah, it
Wow.
was not too recently either. It was, I've seen it show up on day 7 once or twice. So yeah, that's why, as we said, you got to pay attention when they show that.
I mean, you could look at the GFS and say, well, why aren't they putting out some kind of thing for that time frame? Because look, the GFS shows it clearly. Yeah, it shows it clearly now, but it could also change
Well, yeah.
um, in the days to come. So
Well, also
you don't
time
get.
time of day it makes a difference too. I mean, does it? A couple of the older ones were actually bringing this through Friday night. Some of them bringing it through early Saturday morning. Now we're back to like later Saturday afternoon. So, you know,
I will say this: if there was something significant that was going to happen, in which weather was heavily the necessity to know what the weather was going to be like. Let's say, for example, a gigantic fireworks display to celebrate the 200th anniversary of our country back in 1976, or
right.
some major event, then they would take extra effort and extra pains to try to be as precise or exact as possible. But since it next week is just going to be uh, just another weekend, the final weekend actually in May, believe it or not, we'll wait until we get closer. Uh,
Yes, let's wait till we get closer.
yeah,
And then, after that, assuming it keeps on moving, then it gets better on Sunday, and then you get the next high, and then another cold front, and then the next high, and then another cold front, and maybe who knows. But here once again, by the way, if you look down in the Gulf of Mexico, this is what I'm talking about here, where the GFS, this is at hour 300, where it spins up below. And if you go back, I'm going to just go arbitrarily back. Um, Hold on. Oh, why did it do that? There we go. Let's go arbitrarily back 4 runs. Let's go to yesterday, 12Z. There it is yesterday at 12Z at hour 384 in the central Gulf of Mexico. If we go back Friday, let's go back to Friday.
and the next storm on the list is the B storm, which would be Bertha.
Yeah, no, Friday. I mean, Friday's run kind of had stuff just backing it up. It looked like it was way to the south in the Caribbean and going into the southwest Gulf. My point is, again, we're not going to pay serious attention to these things until they get inside. At the very least, they should be inside the say day 7 or day 8. But again, let's watch to see if pressures are good. If pressures are going to wind up being low in the Gulf of Mexico, we'll take a look at that when we get there. So back full screen we are on this Sunday. I don't want to go too long. It's a holiday weekend. Johnny Quest, by the way, had 7.2 inches of rain in the northwestern mountains of Virginia from last week with that deep upper low.
Wow,
I mean, that's just crazy.
that's crazy. That is crazy. Seven.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said 7.2. That is crazy.
Yes, it is. Okay, so let's do a little bit of Briller Jeopardy on.
I've got one for you too.
All right, why don't you go first?
You want me to go
Yeah,
first? All
you
right.
go first.
Let me just see if I can find it here. Ah, yes, here it is. Briller Jeopardy. One, what was the strong? See, he's going back to your roots, Joe. What was the strongest tornado ever to hit New Orleans? Was it an F0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
I don't know. I don't think it was an
This
F5.
actually is unfair because this came long, long after you had left the New Orleans area.
It came
February 7th,
February.
2017, an F3 with winds of 155 struck New Orleans at
Wow.
11:30 a.m.
Oh, and you know what? I just got a notification from. I just as you said that, I got a notification, an email from a New Orleans restaurant that's in Nassau County that I've gone through from time to time called Mara's Southern Kitchen.
Right?
So they just sent me an email. Happy Memorial Day. Order your drive-in dining or pickup. So
Yeah, there,
perfect timing.
there you
You
go.
couldn't have planned that conspiracy better. Okay,
My wife,
so now
my wife
here's.
is now adjusting the light here. The
Oh,
light
good. You have a
becomes,
lighting director. That's good to know.
yes, the technical
Oh,
things.
she does so many things.
Yes.
She's
There's
wonderful.
there's a second there's a second question Mr. Briller gave to you.
Go ahead.
Of the top 500 grossing films of all time. And we're talking now about films that really grossed you out, I guess.
The
No.
top
Uh,
500.
the top 500 grossing films of all time.
Okay, not that we're narrowing it down, but go on.
Just five occurred before 1970. How many of them can you name?
The five before 1970.
Of the top 500 grossing films of all time, only five occurred before 1970. So I guess, in
Okay.
other words, films before 1970 that still have managed to make it on the
The top five
highest.
lists, right? But
Yeah.
that's kind of odd because I would think you'd have to adjust that for. Is it adjusted for inflation or not?
Well,
That's
you'll have
that.
to ask,
That's my question.
you'll
So
have to ask Mr. the chairman on that one.
all
I
right. So you know what? I will say. Um,
Oh, really?
well, if Gone with the Wind is adjusted for inflation, then it would be on that list.
Yes. Then the two of you say Gone with the Wind.
So is it on that list?
Boom.
Okay, so then he's adjusting for inflation. The list adjusts for inflation. So yeah,
Yes.
Gone with the Wind would be on there. I'm gonna say Ben Hur.
Eh.
No, not Ben Hur. Um,
One of my wife's all-time favorite movies is on the list of five.
Oh, The Sound of
The
Music.
Yeah.
Sound of Music.
Yes.
Okay. Which is great. I enjoy The Sound of Music also.
Yes.
It is it's a great movie. Um, you know, gee, this is a kind of question where I kind of have to. Um, oh, no, it wouldn't be that.
I'm going to give you a hint. I'll give you a hint, Joe. The last three films are animated films.
Are animated?
Yes.
Sleeping Beauty.
No, not Sleeping Beauty.
What about Snow White?
Snow White and the
Oh,
Seven Dwarfs. Yes.
Okay. There's two other animated movies.
Right.
All right, and this was before what
I'm
year?
just I'm just giving you, Joe, the bare necessities.
The Bear Necessities. Okay, God, what is? Well, I know it's not Yogi Bear.
Right.
Okay. Um,
The
I,
bare necessities, the simple bare
not
necessities.
Winnie the Pooh.
No.
it's
Who? Who's the Bear Necessities?
Jungle Book.
Oh, Jungle Book.
Yes.
All right, I give up on this question. Go ahead, just give up the answers. Go
Gone
ahead.
with the Wind, Jungle Book, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Sound of Music, and yes, Cruella de Vil
Oh,
for
down
number
101
five.
Dalmatians.
Correct.
wow.
Oh, wow.
There you
And
go.
well, that now is that from its original release or from its re-release
You'll have
or
to ask
both?
Scott. I think it, well, if it's before 1970, I guess it was the original release.
Original. Okay. Then what is the highest water temperature ever recorded at the Steel Pier at Atlantic City?
The highest water temperature?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a shot and say 87,
83.3.
83.3.
August of 2016. Who was the first president to declare war?
The first president to declare war. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't George Washington,
No.
John Adams, Thomas Jefferson.
No.
I'll go through all
He,
the list. The run.
well, I won't. I'll spare you that. James Madison in 1812. What
Oh,
year was the Jetsons set in?
oh, the 20. I don't think it was the 21st century. I think it was more like the 24th century.
Apparently, it's 2062.
2052,
2062.
2062. Oh, so in other words, 100 years after the Jetsons premiered on television, which was on Channel 7,
Right.
they figured that would be what the and interestingly, the Flintstones have an episode where they go into the future and they're flying around in the same like Jetson like car or rocket or whatever travel mode that you call that. So I guess and that was the 21st century. So I guess by 2062 we'll all see if we're flying around like George Jetson, right?
Right. David Silverstein mentions, you're going back to the movie question, mentioned Citizen Kane. One of the reasons why Citizen Kane uh, was would not be on that list is because the movie supposedly was about William Randolph Hearst, and William Randolph Hearst was furious, and he got all his friends in the movie theater business to basically refuse to carry the movie. So
Right.
it was not shown in it was shown in very few movie theaters because Mr. Hearst pulled a few strings and prevented it from being shown. And if it was up to him, probably would have prevented it from being released.
I'm just asking my wife what
Oh, I just wanted to mention to everybody that the Bethpage Virtual Air Show is going to be seen or available come noontime, and they can go to bethpageairshow.com to see it.
All right. For
there's
all
nothing like watching a bunch of planes on my computer monitor.
true,
It's
exactly.
Well, it gives
thrilling.
you inside views and views that you wouldn't
Oh,
see from
okay.
the beach.
Okay. All right.
It's unique.
So there you go.
All right. So look, let's call it a day. It's Memorial Day. Everyone, try and remember that to observe Memorial Day with a moment of remembrance for those who have given their lives for this country. And of course, with everything else that's going on this weekend with regards to the coronavirus, although things are getting a bit more relaxed little by little. So just bear that in mind as you
Did you
go
see
about your business.
did you see the front page of today's New York
I
Times?
did see it. Yes,
Isn't that amazing?
it's a very somber. It's a
Yeah.
very somber front page for sure. I was kind of taken aback by it at first because I guess I didn't expect the New York Times to do that.
All
But
90, all 97 some odd thousand
well, it's
names.
over 100,000 now.
Oh,
They had every name on there.
supposedly, or at least as of publication time. So,
Wow.
uh,
Yeah, and it's an interesting time. It's a sad time, but each day brings us a day closer to getting through all this and then and moving on. So let's hope we get there sooner rather than later. Any plans for today?
nothing. I have nothing planned. We had the kids over yesterday. They're gone now, and so the exciting part of the day might very well be later today when I put my car registration sticker on my windshield. That'll be it. That'll be the big event of
you
the day.
you paid your tribute to the People's Republic of the State of New York, didn't you?
Exactly.
All right. Well, have a great day. Everybody have a great day. Excuse me. Joe and I will be back tomorrow night at our usual shopping time, 7 o'clock Eastern. So mark that down on your calendars, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.